I'd like to not talk about it. Do we have to talk about it? Is that like a requirement? Do we have to talk about it?
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 5th, 2022. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. This episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. Well, that was a weekend for sure. That was certainly an enjoyable, just great experience. The Detroit Tigers get swept in New York by the New York Yankees. I think the accumulative score over the three games, if it was like soccer style, where they play. I'm forgetting the word. Is slipping my brain right now. It'll come back to me like at the 17-minute mark of the show for some reason that doesn't make sense. But when they combine the aggregate, there you go. Got a little bit quicker than I thought. If we were doing the aggregate of the three games, we would have dropped this game or this weekend set by a score of 21-4. So that's a recipe for getting swept. I would say that's a pretty good recipe for getting swept. Getting outscored by almost 20 runs in a 3-game series, decent recipe for failure. Decent. And they did take the Yankees 2 extra innings on Sunday. That's nothing short of a miracle. I don't know how we even managed to do that. Luck, maybe a little bit. I mean, seriously, that we looked terrible. It's just the pitching keeps us in games that like we're not supposed to be in. Even Saturday was 3-0. Like Saturday could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. It was not a bad pitching performance by a pieced together, band-aided up Tiger staff. Beau Brieske, I thought, looked really solid. We'll get to him later. But it just, we went into Sunday without having scored a run yet in the series. These kind of series really just point out and exemplify and highlight all of the flaws that this team still has, which is quite a few. It was not great. It was not a lot of fun. And the thing, I think the most frustrating part of it, I'm not going to try to identify one most frustrating part actually, but one of the most frustrating parts of it is the fact that in what is this year of the rebuild? Let's say it started in 2017 officially. Deadline of 2017. That's 5. Right? Year 5 of the rebuild. And you're still getting embarrassed by teams. Embarrassed by teams. Is that 6? Second half of 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. No, it's 5.5, whatever. Just embarrassing. You can't. It just didn't even look like we were in the same stratosphere, talent-wise. Like seriously, it didn't even feel like this was even. We were playing the same sport. That these two teams were in the same league. It was just pure and utter domination all around. And like I said, our pitching staff does not deserve that much heat, I don't think. So like I said at the beginning, the aggregate for this one across all 3 games was 21-4. And the 4 runs were all scored in one game. The offense is certainly the biggest issue here. And they just looked, again, like it wasn't even playing the same sport as their opponent. The pitching in game 2 I thought was really good. And in game 3, I also thought was pretty impressive. And I mean, 2 of the 5 runs they scored were unearned, or at least currently are unearned. They change stuff like after games all the time, so we'll see. But currently, at the time of this recording, listed as unearned runs. Fulmer's and obviously Soto's then in extras doesn't count as an earned run. The man on second. Also, if I sound stuffy, my allergies are kicking my ass. I'm sorry. So and like the defense was terrible. Ronnie Garcia, like what else could you have asked from Ronnie Garcia? If you expected more than what he gave you, I'm not sure what to tell you. That is as good of a start as you possibly could have had out of Ronnie on Sunday. And Alex Lane came in, was asked to pitch 2 innings. Could have gotten out of that, but poor defense by the big shortstop you just brought in this past offseason. Could have got out of that clean, but Javi Baez doesn't charge on a ground ball, and I don't even know what he was thinking. I really don't. Just like assuming that he was going to round second base, didn't think he had a play. He didn't even charge it. I don't. My guess is he didn't realize he was stealing, or he just thought that the base runner was just going to keep running and was like positive about it for some reason. I have no clue. So that ends up costing you a run because Alex Lang then walks 2 people after that. That's absolutely something he can't do. But if your shortstop, if the highest paid dude on your team, well, Miguel Cabrera, the second highest paid dude on your team, charges a baseball on a grounder, he's out of that inning. Michael Fulmer gets the unearned run, obviously, just crazy, throwing the ball all over the place. Poor decisions on where to throw the ball. We're throwing the ball home. We're Jonathan Scope, love the dude to death, and he's going to be in a Gold Glove conversation. He's dropped like 4 stolen base attempt throws. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. It's just it's so hard to watch, as you all are very aware. It's so frustrating. My goodness. And then Gregory Soto, I actually thought the 9th inning from Greg was maybe his best inning of the entire season. And then again, like it's this weak ground ball, but we're shifted all over the place. Jonathan Scope makes a great play to save a run. And then at that point, with the runner on second, rule of fly ball is going to win it, because in the top of that inning, with a runner on second, you couldn't put the ball in play. You literally couldn't even put the ball in play. You have a free runner on second base. You have the Manfred runner literally on second. You have to bunt with 2 strikes. And I know that some people were questioning the decision by Hinch to give him the bunt sign, whatever. Look, that comes way more down to everybody's faith in Derek Hill with the bat in his hands than it does a poor managerial decision. And I'm not saying Hinch managed a perfect series or anything, but that play is not your argument. That is way more of a testament to how little confidence everybody in that organization has in Derek Hill hitting, period, nonetheless with 2 strikes. It's just you couldn't put the ball in play. Willie Castro still batting leadoff. That's a gripe I have, I guess, with Hinch. That doesn't make any sense with me. What are we doing? There is, golly, there is some positives, and we'll get to them, I guess, but that's just me begging for some optimism more than anything, because it's one thing to go, like, we're going to go play Pittsburgh, and we're going to have Faedo and Scooble on the bump. We could take 2 from Pittsburgh. We go to Toronto. They're like maybe the hottest team in baseball since the middle of May. That's going to be an interesting one. I think that's at home. I don't know if I said we go to Toronto. We play Toronto. And and then after Toronto, the schedule at spots gets kind of easy. Like it's possible to salvage some games, but it's hard not to just keep going back to this series down the road and just think against the upper echelon, against the best teams in this league, the best teams that Major League Baseball has to offer. We looked like a double A team, especially the offense. Really, only the offense, and then one starter. Just not even in the same class. And that's just demoralizing. Because even if you beat some bad teams and you go on a little bit of a run, maybe you recover the record a little bit. You're a few games over under 500 going into the All-Star break or something like that. We're just going to keep going back to, okay, well, when we played the Dodgers and Yankees, what happened? Pumped. Uncompetitive games. So, I guess we'll see. We do have some positive stuff to talk about. A lot of just news and notes from around just this entire series, honestly. Because A, you're playing the Yankees, there's always going to be, and B, network stuff. It was a very eventful weekend, even with all of this, and a lot of content came out of it. So we're going to cover a lot of stuff. But first, I'm going to tell you all about Athletic Greens. Our next product is something that I actually use every single day. You guys have heard me talk about it before. Athletic Greens was something that they sent a box, like a welcome box, to all of their hosts a couple of months ago now. I think at the end of March, mid-March, maybe even, and it was like 30 days worth. And it's just this green powder that you mix with water and you have every single morning, first thing in the morning before you eat. And it's just 8 to 12 or 8 to 11 ounces of water, and then you just start your day with it. And it incredibly increases your digestive health, your gut health, immune system health, all of that. And I have never taken a daily supplement like ever in my life. And they sent it to me when I was like, oh, well, if I'm going to sell the product, I might as well try it. I have re-upped every single month now. It truly is remarkable how much of a notable difference I have, or I feel, after drinking it, and especially once you get a couple of days in it. I mean, you can feel it really quickly on in this journey, I guess you'd call it. It really is phenomenal stuff. It has 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, all sorts of stuff. It has every single vitamin and mineral that your body needs in a 24-hour period, all in one scoop that you just mix with 8 ounces of water every morning. It's fantastic. It's very lifestyle friendly too. If you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, gluten free, accommodates to all of that. It doesn't contain anything that would ruin any of those diets. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar with no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything, and it still tastes really good. It really is an unbelievable product. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. I really do stand by it. I love this product so much, and it's something that I just found by doing this, and now I'm a huge believer in, and I re-up it every single month. So you can order yours today at athleticgreens.com/MLB network. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. That's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, everybody. We are back here for segment 2 at Locked On Tigers. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. We also have an important favor to ask you. Some of you guys have already reached out and told me you've taken it. We're putting together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcast. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. Won't take very long, and everyone that completes the survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. A lot of Tigers games in that. So to take your audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thank you for your help. Really do appreciate it, for real. Okay, let's get back into this weekend. So it's going to be pretty broad because the first two games especially were kind of just same old story, different day. A lot lower of a score, obviously, 10 less runs given up. I guess we can start with that. So Elvin Rodriguez pitched on the Friday game. That ended up being the 13 to nothing rout. That also Garrett Cole carried a perfect game into the seventh, maybe even eighth, seventh, I think. Very deep into the ball game. Very scary there for a little bit. Thank you, Jonathan Scope. And look, I think it was the first 4 innings. I actually thought that Elvin looked pretty solid. I was pretty impressed with what I saw through the first 4 innings. It should have been 2 to nothing going into five. It should have been 2 to nothing going into five. And then Willie Castro in center field happened. He had a just putrid series defensively. Had a couple of knocks to make up for it, but I don't like him batting leadoff. And you can't put him anywhere in the field and consistently rely on him to make plays at this point. I know he had the one, like he threw the guy out and left on Sunday, whatever. I don't really care. Every single fly ball hit to him this entire series. He was running around at the last second. You thought it had a chance of dropping. And the one cost us 3 runs. When you have Derek Hill and Daz Cameron at your disposal, I don't understand continuously putting him in center field. If you are really keen on getting him in the lineup, like I guess do what you did Sunday and hide him in left or right. But really, really brutal defensive series for him. And so, yeah, that was obviously 3 unearned runs, and there were 2 outs in the inning when that happened. That should have been the final out. Willie Castro could have just stood there and not moved, and it would have went right to him, but he crashed in and went over his head. Then they ended up getting 3 runs in the inning. So it should have been 2-0 going into five. And I was pretty impressed. He had a couple of pitches that were working, I thought, and a couple of a lot of called strikes, and we find out why is because um John Boy, I believe, is the person that first did it. He at least did the big video to kind of highlight it. If he's not the very first person to talk about it or bring it up, I apologize for not giving first credit, but he is definitely the one that made the video that got all the attention. The fifth inning comes around, and the Yankees are pretty clearly all over everything he's throwing, which is not on brand. Again, for the first 4 innings, it should have been 2-0. And not that, he was a swing and miss machine or anything, but there were a lot of called strikes. And I think the reason there were a lot of called strikes is because of that. They found out what kind of pitch they found out his tell, and they found out when he was going to throw a fastball. So anytime he was going non-fastball, and he could have thrown them all right down the middle. He did, actually. There were a couple of sliders that were right down the middle that they just didn't swing at because they were like, oh, well, I'm just going to wait for a heater. And then they just went to town on Elvin there in the fifth inning. And he ended up giving up 7 runs. And then, as this bullpen does, we did give up 1 run in the eighth, but as this bullpen does, kind of held it down there at the end innings. I know it's, a lot lower stress, whatever. No one really cares. Jacob Barnes didn't look great either. I think his days are numbered on the major league roster. I think that this could be a candidate to kind of go down. He's really struggled over the last few weeks after a really good start to the season. And then Harold Castro, obviously position player pitching. Didn't look very happy to be a position player pitching, but he goes out there. Will Vest looked great, I guess, for whatever it's worth. So I just wanted to highlight Elvin because before the fifth, I was very impressed. And then going into the fifth inning, you already knew, even before the pitch tipping thing, you already knew, hey, man, like this is, I think before the fifth even started, before he even went out there for the fifth, it was his career high in pitches. And you were like, okay, this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to separate the men from the boys here. And on top of tipping his pitches, already a career high in pitches, just kind of a recipe for disaster against maybe the best lineup in all of baseball. So completely blew up. And then on top of that, you kind of have to save your pen, right? And they only used two relievers after that. Harold Castro, position player, doesn't matter. They only used two relievers the after Elvin, who only went 4 1/3. So they, Jacob Barnes, who is currently one of their lowest leverage guys because he's been struggling so much. Then Will Vest, who just came back off injury, COVID, whatever, just rejoined the roster. This is what, his second outing back. Like he wasn't. You're just trying to work his arm back up. He's going to be pretty low leverage too. So you had to leave Elvin out there to dry on top of all that. It was just a really bad situation that had a lot going wrong. And Hinch didn't want to burn through a bullpen in a game that we were losing. We ended up, 13 runs. So even after he gave up a few, Garrett Cole was perfect gaming us. Even before he even stepped foot on the mound for the fifth, it was already 5-0. If it was a close game, I don't even think he goes to Elvin in the fifth. I think Elvin just goes 4 innings. He gets a pat on the back. Nice job. And that's all she wrote. But because it was already 5-0 and you very clearly weren't getting any offense off of the Yankees in that game, you kind of just had to say, hey, man, bite the bullet, take one for the team, get rocked a little bit, try your best, but we really need to preserve the bullpen as best we can. And clearly that didn't work because he got one out in the fifth inning and ended up giving up 7 runs. So didn't work, but I mean, you kind of had to just throw in the towel and be like, all right, well, we lost this one. We'll see what happens the next 2 games. And the next 2 games weren't very pretty either. We'll talk about those next 2 games, some good performances, some bad performances on the weekend. But first, I got to tell y'all about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, the latest fighting news and MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your combined source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, everybody, welcome back to our third and final segment here at Locked On Tigers. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. So that's the rundown on Elvin. I just feel for him more than anything. He gave up 10 runs. Obviously, I'm not saying that he was lights out or that he was great by any stretch. But in the first 4 innings, I thought he did about as good as you could expect. And then it just all caught up to him in the fifth between, like we already talked about, everything, all of those 3-4 different factors he had going against him. And just the basic fact of playing the Yankees in New York. It happens. Really, really feel bad for the kid. His final line, I'm not even going to say. He gave up 10 runs. Jacob Barnes struggling this one. Like I said, I think he's a candidate to move down. Tomorrow's show will be interesting. So I'm recording this right after the game on Sunday. So if there are roster moves that have been made by the time you're listening to this, then you know that there are roster moves that have been made. I think Monday, we have a day off tomorrow. Today, as you're listening to this, I think there has the potential to be a ton of roster moves, like a ton. And if not Monday, after game 2 of Pittsburgh. Also, do we only play Pittsburgh in 2-game series? What is this nonsense? So I think there's the potential for a lot of roster moves to be made on Monday because it's an off day and you can get people out to Pittsburgh. And also, again, after Pittsburgh, when we head back home to start off our homestand on the first series being against Toronto. I think that both of those dates specifically, a lot of potential for roster movement. We'll talk about that more in depth. That'll be tomorrow's off day show. Back to the weekend, though, the different broadcasts, the Apple TV one, was absolutely ridiculous. It has been all year. I consume baseball as often as I can, so that wasn't my first Apple TV broadcast, but it was for a lot of people. And the probability thing makes no sense. Like it'll be their strikeout probability. And on 0-1, it'll be 40%. And then on 0-2, it'll be 17%. And like that doesn't make sense. That's literally impossible. Um the hit percentages when they're in hitters counts, it's somehow worse than when they're on like two counts. It's just not true. It's not backed up by any data. Fangraphs, actually, I forget who on Fangraphs. It really pisses me off, but somebody on Fangraphs wrote an article about it. I think a couple of weeks ago now, about the probability things there because they don't make any sense, and there's some crazy theories about why they don't make any sense. So go try and check out that article, or just read, just search it on Twitter. You'll find all the conspiracy theories about it. Some people think that it's literally to just like screw over like non like not super serious baseball followers that are sports bettors, and just like screw them over. There's a ton of crazy conspiracies about how it is, but it doesn't make any sense. The broadcast is whack. The announcers, whatever, take them or leave them. Wasn't blown away one way or another. But it's just in a 3-game series against the New York Yankees. We had one game on Apple TV, one game on our actual Bally regional network, and then one game on Peacock at 11 in the morning. I What a weekend we chose to play the New York Yankees, apparently. I don't think the Yankees have to deal with that all the time. I think it's just usually on Yes Network. But this weekend, light work for the broadcast teams of these two teams, these two clubs. Very easy weekend for them. Really weird weekend to watch baseball. And it didn't help that then on national TV in 2 of the 3 games, we got absolutely pumped in one of them, and then just like little league play after little league play embarrassed off the field in the other one. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Beau Brieske was a highlight this weekend, however, pitched on Saturday. I thought that was one of the best starts of Beau Brieske's career. I know that he did give up 2 runs, but that's a quality start. 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and a career high 7 strikeouts on 83 pitches. The ERA is now sub 5. This one worried me going into the weekend. Ronnie Garcia, whatever Ronnie Garcia does or doesn't do is if he does well, it's icing on the cake. If he does poorly, it's no, like I'm not losing sleep over it. And then the first game of the series was Elvin, which is pretty much the same mindset as Ronnie. Beau is somebody that I actually want to see development out of. And I think we talked about it a little bit on Friday. He's been hit hard a lot, and a lot of fly ball outs on top of that. And credit to him, man. What a dog. Credit to him. Very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Got a lot of swings and misses. Was in like big moments too, and like that was the thing. The whiff total itself is not something that's gonna like blow you away or anything, but just the sheer ability to get them when needed, get them at absolutely. He only ended with 11, but got him in really big moments and spread them out a lot. 4 whiffs on the 4-seam, 3 on the slider, 3 on the changeup, 1 on the sinker, none on the curveball. So almost had a whiff on every single pitch he threw. And the average exit velocity was still really high, but the launch angle on him was a lot worse, right? Gave up the 1 leadoff homer to Aaron Judge, obviously. But I mean, outside of that, was pretty contained. Rizzo did Rizzo things too. But it was just a really impressive outing for me because he was playing in a small park, and his problem has been fly ball outs, hard hit fly ball outs. And in a small park on the biggest stage against one of the best lineups in the league, he did give up 2 runs, but they were non-costly because nobody was on base, and he was able to get out of it. I was very, very impressed with Beau Brieske. I think the biggest thing is the changeup. The changeup's a plus pitch, and I don't know if it was just the amps of playing in Yankee Stadium or what, but that thing was coming in hot. Like his changeup usually sits around 80 miles an hour. This thing was like topping off at like 84, 85. I think he threw an 85-mile-an-hour changeup at one point. He was rifling that thing in there. The changeup itself had a CSW percentage of 33%, and his entire outing had a CSW percentage of 33%. So that's 33% of pitches were either called strikes or whiffs. Great number. Phenomenal number. Anything above 30% is a really good outing. And his is obviously one of every three pitches. I mean, really, really solid. So I was very, very impressed with Beau. Gets me a little pumped for his next start. Him and Fetter said that they were working on some stuff. A lot more slider in this one, which I also liked. Almost the slider more than the four seam. He said after the game that him and Barnhart found a hole that they thought was in pretty much the entire lineup's uh, zone with the slider and just kept pounding it. And that's what they did. And they found a lot of success doing that. So, like I said, really, really impressed with Beau Brieske. That's probably where the good news ends. I mean, the bullpen was solid again, as it tends to be on Sunday. I know we already talked about Lang. And then Michael Fulmer came in. Look, if Michael Fulmer's cutter is doing that again, it's gonna play. That cutter when it is on, I think so they technically listed as a slider, whatever you want to call it. That thing comes in there at 91, 92 miles an hour and moves like that. It's a crazy effective pitch when it's on. And if he's healthy and we're going to get that pitch and that kind of production from him, it's going to be a really valuable piece at the back end of this bullpen. Gregory Soto, like I said, I think pitched maybe the best inning of the season in the ninth, and then just extra runner on base. I mean, he recorded he recorded an out. Like it's really hard with the Manfred runner there on second. We already talked about Lang. Other pitch, Andrew Chafin, I thought looked solid. Lang. Oh, Lang, I did want to touch on Lang. Oh, Jason Foley looked really good again, too. That's the other person I wanted to bring up. Lang getting the sixth inning confused some people because, like, he's been one of our better relievers, and that was, first out of the pen thing is kind of weird. You got to look at where on the lineup we were on Sunday. Lang got first out of the pen. However, the reason that he got the sixth was because it was their best hitters. It was Judge, Rizzo, and Donaldson, and they wanted Lang to go up against that, and he set him down. And then the seventh inning, obviously stretching that one inning into two is where it gets a little shaky. His command was not great, even when he went through the big three, the three-headed monster there in the previous inning. But I guess we only gave up a run out of it. So I don't know, man. It's just it's. I find this balance of not balance. I try to find myself walking this line of being unbelievably frustrated at this weekend and also just being completely demoralized and like it's the Yankees and we're not even close to them yet. Year 6 of a rebuild. 5, 6, whatever. Over half a decade of a rebuild. And we are still nowhere close to being competitive. Or at least being competitive against the best teams in the league. It's really, really frustrating. And it really just makes me sad more than anything. So, yes, I'm unbelievably frustrated. I'm mad. I don't want to keep watching this product either. We should be a lot better. This offense is abysmal. Javi had a couple of hits on Sunday. He also had a couple of just brutal mental errors. I don't know what was going on in the base paths there. I don't know what was going on in the field and why he didn't charge the ball. Miguel Cabrera at almost 40 is straight up your best hitter. That's who we are relying on a day-to-day basis. Miguel Cabrera. He is hitting. Somebody posted a thing. I don't remember who, that Miguel Cabrera is batting over 300 and like 5 other people in our lineup are batting under 200 or something ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. So let's end the show with talking about some of the roster moves that we could see, and then hopefully they do happen, and then we can just talk about those tomorrow. But some people to keep an eye out for. Austin Meadows, I think, is pretty much a lock to rejoin the team in Pittsburgh. So we should be seeing that soon. I'd be really shocked if it wasn't. Riley Green, I think, debuts at home. So I don't expect him to join the team in Pittsburgh, but still something to keep an eye on for. If they want him now, you could very well see it. I'm not saying it's out of the question, but if I had to put money on it, I would say this weekend in Toronto. Still, Riley Green close. That's super exciting. What else? Pitching wise, Tyler Alexander pitched a couple of innings of really good baseball for Toledo, so hopefully he can get here sooner rather than later. Give us some more reinforcements there. Cody Clemens and Daz would be people to keep an eye on for. I mean, maybe Willie Castro at this point, but I mean, I find it hard to believe that the dude that's been batting leadoff for the last week is just going to get sent down when those guys are ready. So I don't know. We'll see. But those are the big. Austin Meadows and Riley Green are obviously the big two. Then pitching wise, there is, I mean, Erod's throwing and hopefully rehabbing relatively soon. It's just going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out and who's expendable on the roster, who gets sent down, who they call back up, the timing of everything. It could potentially be a really, really interesting Monday and then Thursday for the Tigers. So we'll see. We'll see. Really, really discouraging. That's the word. Really, really discouraging weekend from the Tigers. Really, really discouraging. Jamer. We haven't had an update on him. If he's hurt, that changes everything as well. Eric Haas is also somebody I think we should keep an eye on. Not for injury's sake, but I genuinely think that Eric Haas is close to getting demoted. Might be a hot take, whatever. And I hope, best case scenario is he just starts hitting again and turns it around and everything's fine. But based on what the team has gotten out of him up to this point, it would not shock me if over the next 4 days Eric Haas was not on the major league roster anymore. Now you do have some juggling to do with that as well because you do have, I think those are the only two catchers on the 40-man roster. So then you have to make adjustments with the 40-man and add Garneau. You do have expendable people on the 40-man, though, that you can get off. Some pitchers on there that I would imagine that like 60 or 70% of fans maybe have never even heard of. So it is possible, but it's we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll go in depth on all the roster moves that do happen or could potentially happen on tomorrow's day off. Sorry for running long today, but we got a whole weekend with a lot of stuff that came out of it, so we had to talk about a lot of stuff. Golly. Frustrating stuff. Frustrating stuff. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, though. I do greatly appreciate all the support that this show and that I continue to get, even through a really rough start to the year for your Detroit Tigers. I really do greatly appreciate it. So thank you for making me your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked on MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, great guy, super funny. I've done a couple of crossovers with him. Knows his stuff. He brings humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories from around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked on MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Excuse me. Okay, this is like 40 minutes long. I'm way over time. I'm going to get yelled at by somebody. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Lord knows my therapist is going to learn a lot about baseball this week. And hopefully we head into Pittsburgh, get a couple of wins back under our belt, head into Toronto hot, and can maybe make some noise then. Until then, though, until tomorrow, be on the eyes for some roster moves. Be on the lookout. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.